wrong. You're wrong. She's wrong. He's wrong. We're wrong. We're wrong. Seriously wrong. Seriously wrong.
Did you get a good sleep last night, Shawn?
I actually didn't get enough sleep last night. I get off work at midnight, so it's pretty default for me to go to bed late by most people's standards. But after I got home from work, I spent a lot of time researching sleep deprivation for this episode, and that contributed to an inadequate sleep today.
It's unfortunate. I had a great sleep last night, actually.
What time did you get to bed at?
I went to bed at 9:45.
Really?
Yeah, and I was out, I'm sure, before 10. And I slept pretty straight through till about 7 a.m., 6:45 I got up, and then I lay in bed, slept in a bit until like 7:30.
Oh, what a treat.
Had an extra like 45 minutes on top of my like 9-hour sleep, and then got up and had my day.
How much do you feel that you need?
Sleep?
Yeah.
Most nights I just tend to wake up after, say, 7 hours. But I've also, like, because of my job and getting up early anyway on my days off, now I just, like, 7 a.m. hits, I'm just awake. I have that internal clock thing going of, it's kind of cool, but it's also bad. Like, the reason I went to bed at 9:45 last night instead of, like, 10:30, 11:30, which is my normal range, was that I had a really terrible sleep the night before. I had like 5 hours. And the reason I had 5 hours is that I was up late having a conversation until like 2, 3 in the morning, and then woke up at 6:15 and then couldn't sleep for the next 30 minutes. And then it was like 6:45. The light was, I don't know, just like after 7, just like my brain was like, nope, not working, not sleep. So, I wasn't able to sleep, even though I could have. Like I didn't have to go to work.
For me too, I could have slept in much later. Like I didn't have any pressing engagements early in the day, but I just woke up because of, I think my circadian clock was set to, I usually wake up around maybe 11:30 in the morning because I'm going to bed around 3 or 4 actually. But last night in particular, it was probably almost 6 when I went to sleep. So 5.5 or 6 hours that I slept last night. But I actually find, for me personally, and I don't know if this has negative health effects, it would seem that it probably would. I often find myself having a lot of clarity of thought and a lot of energy on days where I only sleep 6 hours-ish. If it's more than 6 hours, but around 6 hours, as long as I've been sleeping more on previous days.
If you sleep that a bunch of days in a row, then it's not so great.
Yeah, it stacks and starts feeling really bad, which happened when I was working a job. I had to start at 8 in the morning, so I had to get up at 6:30 or 7. And this is a transition from, I was previously working graveyard shifts before that. So that transition was really, really hard on my body and translated into some of the worst feelings I've ever had about work in my life that I've ever had.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just terrible on days like yesterday where I get bad sleep. Just everything seems so much worse, and like I hate it. I don't like not getting sleep. I'm very protective of my sleep, and I'm like protective of going to bed early. I used to stay up really late, and I liked it. Like I liked doing work. When I used to edit videos a lot, I would do the majority of it between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. But that was when I could wake up at 9:45 and walk to my job that started at 10, and I would still get a good 6.5, 7 hours of sleep and stay up till 3 in the morning. So that was easy for me. But now I like the morning thing. Like I find the quiet focus time that I was able to find between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. hasn't disappeared because I go to bed earlier. I'm just able to find it at like 8 a.m. until noon because most things just don't really happen before then.
Well, it's cool. Like, yeah, doing work earlier in the day instead of at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, something I've never been able to really get a hold of. Like people talk about night owls versus morning larks.
Right.
And I've always been really high energy at the end of the day, low energy at the beginning of the day, as long as I can remember.
I have a U-shaped thing where I have a really good beginning of the day, and then I have like a dip where I'm like kind of useless and tired in the afternoon, and then in the evening I'm more energetic again.
Do you have an afternoon nap?
No, napping is hard for me. I can't turn off my brain like that in the middle of the day. Like I can lay there and get a bit of rest by just closing my eyes, and like it feels good to do that sometimes, but I rarely actually fall asleep. I think I also have an anxiety of sleeping too long, or if I set an alarm, then I have anxiety of like not falling asleep long enough before the alarm goes out. Like it's just my brain has tricked itself into not being able to nap for whatever reason.
The only time I was really in a schedule of regular naps was when I started at 8 a.m. I was working in the factory at Lush Cosmetics here in Vancouver, making bubble bars for insufficient wages. Boycott Lush. Actually, I don't know how they treat their employees now, but they treated us like shit back then. I was so tired, like it was so regular for me to get 5 or 6 hours of sleep at most every night in a row. After that stacked up for like a week or whatever, and I try to catch up on weekends and stuff, but this has been going on for a couple weeks, and I started getting really depressed about my job and about my life, and just super resentful of Lush, and the
so much so that it's still boiling over today.
Yeah, and I think just objectively they treated us bad in a lot of ways, but it was very profound to me when I was sleep deprived. But I can remember going on lunch breaks and morning and afternoon breaks, a total of 1 hour break in a day, 15 minutes, half an hour, 15 minutes again. And I would use 100% of that time for sleeping.
You could actually fall asleep?
Yeah, I was so fucking tired, dude. I can remember going and sitting in the change room in like an uncomfortable chair and like nodding off, waking up to the alarm, feeling a little better and going back to work. Like it was so rough. I had such a hard time getting to sleep at night. And especially because there's one of the things about sleep deprivation is insomnia causes depression and depression causes insomnia. People who are depressed have trouble getting to sleep, and people who don't sleep enough get depressed. If you're participating in a job that forces you to be somewhere at a certain time.
Yeah, the anxiety of not getting enough sleep, like trying to fall asleep at a time that's uncomfortable for you, and then like not being able to, and then like seeing that clock keep ticking, and then seeing like, oh shit, now I only have 4 hours of sleep. Like more anxiety, more thoughts. Fuck, I'm fucking up my whole day tomorrow. Fuck, why can't I stop thinking and fall asleep?
Yeah.
I've had that experience a lot.
Yeah, that was the time I was able to like regularly nap. But there's been a few times, and I'm not the type of, some people get fucked up by having naps, like they feel bad, but I always feel amazing after a nap. Some of my most pleasant memories in my life involve waking up from naps and being like, ooh, yeah, nappy nap.
I used to be able to nap. I used to nap at my old job. I could sleep I could sleep in guest rooms if I worked it right. A friend of mine who worked there would sleep on the floor in guest rooms with his feet right by the door, so that if anyone opened the door, they would hit his feet and be like, oh, sorry, and like close it again, and then he'd have enough time to scramble up and be awake. And I would just sleep in the office when I could, like curled up in a ball under the desk, and my radio right beside me. If they ever need me, they radio me. It would wake me up. And yeah, it was very like safe place to nap. At my old job, I can't do it at this one. I mean, I wouldn't because I'm principled. But do you use any sleep aids? I use all of them. Like that stuff right there. See that little bottle? It's kava root extract. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Just like such a nice feeling. I got some sleepy time tea, which is a mixture of chamomile, valerian, and skullcap, which is just like beautiful little herbal mixture, put you right to sleep. I have melatonin, even though I've heard melatonin doesn't work according to science or something, or it's like barely works, but I find like rotating between them is helpful for maintaining efficacy. You know, people are telling me that we all need to get more sleep. And when I become president, when Aaron Moritz becomes president, people are going to get a fantastic amount of sleep. People are going to get so much sleep. People call me all the time and tell me, Aaron, I get enough sleep thanks to you, thanks to the improvements you've made in my life. And that's what I'm going to do for this country. And we got a huge problem in this country right now. We got a huge problem, and that is people who don't sleep enough, and you know where these people are coming from. They're coming from south of the border. Those Americans bringing their work culture up here to Canada, don't like it. They're not sleeping enough. I'm saying, get them out of here. They're not sending their best. They're sending people who stay up all the time doing work. It's awful. They're messing up Canada. I'm the only one who's talking about this. I'm the only one who's honest with you all about this, and I think we just need to build a wall and keep them out, send them back, build a wall, keep them out, send them back. So vote for Aaron, and Aaron's going to keep them out, build a wall, and send them back, and you're going to get enough sleep. Going to make Canada sleepy again.
Something about the science of sleep that I found out while researching is this concept of microsleep, that if you're sleep deprived, your brain will start, whether or not you have this like actual nap, your brain shuts off for periods of time, sometimes for fractions of a second, sometimes for a few seconds, as long as 30 seconds with long-term deprivation. And during that time, your brain doesn't process any information. And often your eyes will stay open and you won't realize that it's happened. You'll just jump ahead in time. Which is also, I've noticed that when I'm sleep deprived, the day seems to go faster a bit. And it might be because my brain is processing less information.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I've noticed that specifically when I've become sleepy driving on the highway. Like these jumps where you're just like, oh, whoa. Like, this is bad. This is bad what's happening right now. Also, not being able to keep your eyes open when driving on the highway is scary as fuck.
Yeah, and that's a huge, like, micro sleep deprivation and fatigue driving causes thousands of accidents a year. In the United States alone, from the statistics I found, there's 800 confirmed deaths per year because of fatigue driving, not just of the driver, but passengers and other people on the road. I think this is CDC statistics. Let me just find it. Okay, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration of the United States estimates that drowsy driving is responsible for 72,000 crashes, 44,000 injuries, and 800 deaths in the year 2013. These numbers are underestimated, they're conservative, and up to 6,000 fatal crashes each year may be caused by drowsy drivers.
Yeah, it must be, like, hard to know all the time.
Yeah. So the 800 is, like, confirmed. The 72,000 crashes is confirmed drowsy driver crashes. So it's quite an epidemic, really. Like it kills more people than school shootings.
Yeah, I've had multiple experiences with being tired while driving. One time, the day that the first day of my graduating year in high school, there was like a big party the night before the first day, like a big grad party, and so I didn't get a lot of sleep that night and was very drunk, and then I didn't get a lot of sleep during the day either, even though I did leave school to go drink. But that night I was driving to Calgary from Medicine Hat, where I lived, which was a 3-hour drive to go to a concert. So my friend and I drove to Calgary, watched the concert on like very little sleep, hungover, and then drove back home that night. And on the way back, we're like switching back and forth with each other, being like, oh, I can't do it anymore. I'm falling asleep. It's your turn. So it was like for the last hour of that drive, we switched probably every 10 minutes or so, because neither of us could keep our eyes open.
You just didn't like park and have a half-hour nap or something?
No, just went. But as soon as I reached the city, I found it was like, it's the tedium too of the highway that becomes really difficult. But once I was driving around the city, I felt fine, like at least fine enough. But yeah, no, it's weird. Sleep deprivation is epidemic. That the majority of people indicate that they don't feel they get enough sleep. According to an international 2013 poll by the National Sleep Foundation, this is all self-reported, so it's biased, but more than half of respondents in the UK, Germany, Japan, the US, and Canada report that they get less sleep than they need on work days. About a quarter of respondents in the US, the UK, and Canada say they rarely or never get the sleep they need on work days. If you're rarely or never getting the sleep you need on work days and you're working 5-day weeks, which is the default, in my experience at least, that stacks hardcore. If you're missing sleep for one night is bad, but it's not as bad as missing sleep for 2 nights or 3 nights or 4 nights. And so if you're missing sleep for 5 days in a row, that 5th day, you're fucking deprived. Like you're in a partial zombie state. Like you're You're not okay.
Yeah, and sleep deprivation is an epidemic, and sleep deprivation causes just huge amounts of personal problems and social problems in aggregate. It's extremely damaging to social relations. It's bad for society in so many ways. It was staggering. I was blown away. Part of the reason I was up so late is because I just kept on finding out more stuff, and it's fascinating how bad it is for you and how little I understood how bad it was for me when I was young. Like, I knew that I was supposed to sleep at this time or whatever, and but no one ever made the case to me that if I don't get enough sleep, I'm gonna die like 20 years earlier.
Right.
Like, no one ever made
Oh,
the case
shit.
to me
Yeah.
that no one ever pointed out to me that the Exxon Valdez spill, the 3 Mile Island accident, and Chernobyl were all caused by sleep deprivation as a major factor.
Right.
No one ever as a kid told me that sleep deprivation before school impairs learning. Like, impairs learning, cognition, memory, everything essential about even socializing. Like, this is all stuff that was completely invisible to me. And I mean, I had...
Wait. Sorry, that last one was invisible to you? Yeah, I'm just like, isn't it really obvious just by how it feels to be sleep deprived that you're not thinking as well, you're not as easily sociable? And I don't know, I feel like it's...
I honestly, and it's hard to tell with old memories like that, especially sleep deprived memories. But like, I think that there were times where I was an idiot, or I was an asshole, or I was not getting the point of things, or I was reactive, or I was angry, or I was upset by something that I wouldn't have been if I had gotten enough sleep.
Right,
Because-
and you didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like in high school, I remember routinely staying up really late and preferring to go to school sleep deprived than sleeping in and missing some school, because it's damaging for my body to go to school on time, but it's damaging for my school career, my grades and stuff, to miss classes and be reported as absent. Being reported as absent was worse than permanently damaging my body, or hopefully not permanently, but to some degree damaging my body, impairing my heart's ability to function.
There's a what do you call that? Personal responsibility aspect where people are like, well, of course you got to go to school if you stayed up too late. Why'd you stay up too late? You should just go to bed earlier. Like, this is a moral failing, or a failure of effort, or a failure of character on your part, and you should make the effort to get the amount of sleep you need. And it's not our job to change all of school just for you, Shawn. Yeah, I feel like jobs and work, like, usually I get enough sleep for my job, but it would be really good on certain nights where I don't, or if I could just be like, sleeping in later today, I'll coming in 3 hours late. And they're like, good. Yeah, we want you to have your sleep.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be more of a norm.
You can call in sick to work, but you can't call in sleepy to work.
Yeah, you should be able to. At least if it's possible.
No, what? Actually, no. Just show up tired so long that you get long-term health problems, and then you can call in sick. We want to see the symptoms.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. But I mean, I'm really interested in figuring out how to design a society that is sleep positive and not sleep negative. I feel like there's a lot of puritanism around sleep, and like what I was just describing, and like
I love
what
that.
you're describing.
Sleep positive. I've literally never heard that in my life.
Yeah, I think I just never put those words together before either. But yeah, I've been on this kick recently of like validating laziness, validating unproductivity, validating sleep, and telling people that it's okay to want more sleep, and that it's okay to sleep and not do things, because I think that's important.
Hey, Shawn, you want to come over to my house and sleep over all night for a party?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll stay up all night, and we won't even listen to my mom, who's going to tell us to go to bed.
Ah, nice.
It'll be like we're doing our own thing. We're doing what we want to do. Cool kids, you know? It's not bad. So let's do it together. We'll watch TV. I got lots of TV. We can read comic books and play video games and wear pajamas together.
Nice. This is appealing to me because, and just between us kids,
My whole life I've been kind of had things imposed on me by parents, like, you know, eat your vegetables. Don't stay up all night.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
Yeah, and they don't really do an adequate job of like explaining what the reason is. As like a kid right now, the idea of staying up all night sounds appealing to me as like a type of a rebellion. We need to subvert this imposition by what appears to be an illegitimate authority.
I know that I don't like going to bed when other people tell me to go to bed. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
I don't like it.
I'm saying I'm into not doing it.
Yeah, I think that...
Because I'm not aware of like the long-term health effects. Like, because no one's really made that case adequately to me, like with science and with like respecting my intelligence, you know?
As far as I know, it's fine. It's just an arbitrary thing. Like, that's all I know. I know that my mom says I should, but she's never said that it caused any problems, so I assume that it's just a random thing that she wants. Like, it's you know, just mom wants to tell me what to do. She loves it.
It's the same, like sometimes my mom will tell me not to say shit or damn.
Right, yeah, you know nothing happens
And
when you
they're
do
harmless.
it. Everything's fine.
Do them in private.
I care about watching a lot of TV at night. I even like tape TV shows so that I can watch them.
Nice. The cool thing about being friends is like agreeing on so many things, you know?
Moms are stupid. Staying
Agreed.
up's great.
Agreed.
Parties, sleeping parties, pajamas are great, except
Great.
minus the sleep at the sleeping party.
And whoever falls asleep first, other guy's got to totally fart in his face.
Yeah, what a loser.
Yeah,
What a
it'd be
weak,
pathetic.
weak little boy. Weak girly boy.
Oh, little baby couldn't stay up all night. Little baby's
when
too
needs
sleepy.
sleep.
Well, you're getting a toot right in the face, buddy.
Guess who's gonna do poorly in business because you're not gonna be able to put in the long hours? You're gonna be asleep at your desk, and I'm gonna be stealing your client.
Yeah, you're gonna wake up to fart helicopter dropping machine gun fire on.
I'm gonna put your fingers in a bowl of water, and then you're gonna pee yourself.
Harsh but cool.
Cool people who don't follow society's rules, which I hate.
I hate all rules.
Rules
Rules are bad.
as far as I know, they're all arbitrary.
Yeah, if my mom was like, "Why do you think rules are bad?" I'd be like, "'Cause I said so, bitch."
Yeah, you
Don't tell my
you
mom
just say so things.
I wouldn't say a bitch to my mom, actually. I wouldn't say most of that to my mom.
Yeah,
She would
sometimes
get mad.
That's when you say things in your head, mom doesn't get mad, and then everything's okay.
So true about saying things in your head, dog.
And then sometimes I say things out loud like, "Yes, mom, I went to sleep," and then I just say in my head, "No, mom, that's a lie," but she doesn't hear that part.
What I like to do, because I'm not technically lying, is I'll say some parts in my head. "Yes, mom, I didn't go to sleep."
So what you say out loud is, "Yes, mom, I go to sleep." Yeah. Good.
She doesn't suspect a thing, man.
It's not even lying.
Not
It's
even lying.
genius. Childhood
Gotcha.
genius.
Gotcha.
I said it. The word was said in my head. That, it was said. You can't say it.
Hook, line, and sinker.
God, you're dumb, mom.
Sleep deprivation is anyone getting, quote, less sleep than they need. So some people need less than others, and it's not sleep deprivation if they're comfortable and productive and don't want to sleep more and don't feel bad about it.
When you mentioned a self-reporting study earlier, you said these numbers are biased because it's self-reporting. I had the thought, but I didn't break in. But just that, isn't that really the only measure of, like, I guess you could say objectively people need this much sleep, but what you're saying now seems to validate my intuition there with what I wanted to jump in with was, isn't whether or not you're getting enough sleep a thing that really only you can know? Like, if you're feeling sleepy all the time and if you're like feeling like you get enough or not, like that isn't a problem of like bad practice to use that question. It's the right practice because you're the arbiter of that. You're the measure of that. Your subjectivity is the indicator there.
I partially agree with you, but I'll further clarify on what I meant by that, because there's other information from this 2013 poll that indicates to me as a reader that there are massive cultural biases in it. So they surveyed people in the United States, Canada, Germany, Mexico, Japan, and the UK, 6 countries. And some of the interesting things that stuck out from the data to me were that in all of the countries except for Mexico, more than half the respondents said they got less sleep than they needed on work days. But the majority of people in all countries, the least amount being 66% and the highest being 82%, say that their schedule allows for adequate sleep. So there's a gap. They feel that they have the ability to get enough sleep, but yet they're still not, which I think ties into kind of a Puritan ideology around sleep, that they're guilty for not getting enough sleep. And don't blame the schedule. It's me. I always stay up.
Right.
Sleep deprivation is the worst in the United States, Japan, and the UK. That is, people get the least sleep. But interestingly, Japanese respondents reported they had a number of questions about, has sleep deprivation affected this aspect of your life, this aspect of your life, this aspect of life? And across the board, Japanese respondents said that it affected their lives less than every other country, while they were one of the most sleep-deprived countries, which makes me think that, again, this Puritan kind of ideal, like, I'm not an expert on Japanese culture, and I'm not trying to make some sort of crude stereotype, but I think that it's not a leap to say that there's a cultural reason why Japanese people would say that they aren't being negatively affected by it, while also saying at the same time that they are the least sleeping
so
nation.
there can be errors in subjectivity based on, like, even your criteria or what you perceive the norm to be, or what you perceive the socially beneficial thing to say. Or maybe Japanese people have a genetic cluster possibility of needing less sleep in general.
Maybe if there's a cultural reason why people are getting less sleep, and you get less sleep from a young age, either your body gets used to it and you adapt to the amount of sleep that you're getting, or you are unable to see the negative effects. Or, like, if I was sleep deprived all the time, I just might think that I'm an angry, anxious person. Another interesting thing, around 30% of the population of most countries polled say that they need more than 8 hours of sleep. But again, there's an interesting culture distinction, this time with Mexico, where I'm sorry for laughing. 62% of people from Mexico say they need more than 8 hours of sleep, which is around 2 times like the next down, which is like 31 or 32%, I think, in the UK and the United States. So there's a cultural reason.
There's an enlightenment in Mexico as compared to those other countries.
Yeah, I think they're admitting how much sleep they need, and they're in tune with their bodies, and maybe they understand how much sleep they need in a way that's distinct from the other countries, and that maybe we should turn away from the repressive Japanese culture and turn towards the liberating Mexican culture on how we create a pro-sleep narrative, a sleep-positive society.
I wonder if there's an aspect of definition of the word need, whereas like in productivity is the best, like America, people are like, well, I don't need that much sleep. I need the bare minimum. Whereas like maybe somewhere that's a little more relaxed would say, oh, well, I need enough that makes me feel the best that I could feel. The latter's a better way to look at it, for sure. Sleep positive.
Yeah, what if the same way that we have sick days, we had sleepy days, where you don't miss work entirely, but maybe come in 3 hours later, like you said, or 4 hours later, but get paid for it, have a certain amount in the year of catch-up days?
Yeah, that would be kind.
That would be very kind.
Yeah, kind policy. It would be kind of the government to force companies into doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. It really would. It'd be wonderful. Okay, so here's the basic case against sleep deprivation, apart from the fact of the thousands of people that died that I talked about before in 3 Mile Island and shit. In people who have long-term sleep deprivation, it impedes their immune system. It increases the chances of weight gain. There are studies that show that children who get less sleep are fatter than their peers. And people who don't sleep enough have an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. They have irregular heartbeats, heart disease, heart attacks and heart failures, high blood pressure, increased amount of strokes, diabetes, decreased sex drive, and lower testosterone. Lower testosterone is something that's bad for both men and women. Everyone needs testosterone at healthy levels. Sleep deprivation makes you forgetful. Your brain consolidates memories worse, and learning suffers. This can also affect long-term memories. Sleep-deprived people produce more cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It damages people's skin. It's been tied to muscle deterioration, fat buildup. It makes people prone to anxiety, fight or flight responses, like mental health problems you experience are exacerbated by sleep deprivation. If you are an anxious person who can't handle being in social situations, that is going to be multiplied by sleep deprivation. If you have depressive tendencies, sleep deprivation is going to make you more depressed. And like I said before, being depressed increases the chances of insomnia, so it leans on itself and gets out of control. And I think the pressure to sleep and the idea, like you said before, of like, I need to go to work in 5 hours, holy fuck.
Yeah.
That's not helping people sleep. This is an interesting health problem because it's actually a social problem. And it's a systemic problem also, in the way that we treat sleep in society has to do with how we interact with institutions and how we interact with bureaucracy. And at the same time...
It's a clock problem.
Yeah, it's a clock problem.
Yeah.
It's hurting people. It's causing our peers to die. Heavy scientific consent. Like, if you think there's a scientific fucking consensus on global warming or evolution, check out the scientific goddamn consensus on sleep deprivation. This shit fucks you up, and it's fucking most of us up right now.
Yeah, definitely. And there's not a movement of people being like, no, everyone should only sleep 2 hours a night. It's the scientists are hiding the truth. It's because it doesn't match anyone's subjective experience anyway. This is just like, it's a very clear, cut and dried case.
One of the most interesting things that I found, and I think this is fairly recent research, people who are sleep deprived don't show emotion on their faces. They report being happy, but visibly they don't look happy. Or they report being upset, visibly they don't look upset. Report being angry, visibly don't look angry.
Right.
Which is weird. That matches my experience also directly.
Yes. No, me too. Definitely. The like dead face, just like, huh.
Okay, here's another thing. I wonder if this matches your experience. People who are sleep deprived also misinterpret neutral expressions as hostile.
Maybe.
There's a study published in the Journal of Neuroscience, authored by Matthew Walker, a professor of psychology and neuroscience at UC Berkeley. Sleep-deprived and non-sleep deprived people would look at 70 facial expressions ranging from threatening to non-threatening. They scanned their brains and measured their hearts. And as was the hypothesis, the participants who were sleep-deprived were much more likely to perceive facial expressions as threatening compared to when they were not sleep deprived.
I wonder if world leaders getting enough sleep would reduce the amount of war that exists on the planet.
Absolutely.
This could be one of the underlying factors, one of the key underlying factors that people haven't thought about, like requiring your president to get enough sleep.
Yeah, I think it's probably a regular thing to not get enough sleep.
Yeah, oh yeah, they have really demanding schedules and flights and things like they probably feel like they should downplay it.
Like, how can you negotiate with Putin if you're fucking jet lagged?
Oh yeah, no, like if you're having a negotiation, you should show up like 3 days before, have a sleep, have a little drink in the garden. Definitely. I feel like that's like the idea that people in positions of power are experiencing all of these negative things that you've just been talking about, and especially like misinterpreting neutral facial expressions as hostile, or like anything neutral as hostile, is extremely problematic. And increased anxiety is problematic. Depression, like these are all things that we don't want anyone to have necessarily, but like people with a lot of power, either in governments or in corporations. I feel like it explains a lot of why the world is so messed up, because all these people who are in power tend to be sleep deprived.
The study authors of this particular study also, they don't mention world leaders, but they say that these things are especially problematic for people who work in careers where life or death decision-making and sleep deprivation go hand in hand. For instance, members of the military, emergency service personnel, medical professionals, and new parents. And the weird thing about this, okay, so look at these 2 points of data and see how they might interact. Sleep-deprived people have neutral facial expressions, and sleep-deprived people think neutral expressions are hostile. So if more than one person is sleep-deprived, they think each other are hostile. They have a higher tendency to think each other is hostile. That's a serious problem. It damages relationships. It damages interpersonal reactions. And perceiving whether or not people are malicious accurately is really important.
Yeah. It's a life skill, necessary life skill. Yeah, fuck. Yeah, no, you've convinced me. This is huge. This is the biggest problem that we face in society.
One of the things we've talked about on the show since the beginning is these arbitrary conflicts between people who have so much in common.
Yeah.
And these ideological conflicts that people perceive each other as malicious when they're just clearly not being malicious, or there's no need for animosity. Being able to say sleep deprivation is definitively a factor in that, for me, it's relieving in a sense, but it's also scary, because how do we fix this problem?
Yeah, no, it's deep. Like, there's not a lot of. I mean, you can start doing things like trying to push to change the culture around work and the way that people in society think about sleep. But it's slippery, and it's hard to think of things that would have a positive impact on a lot of people. Things like worker sleep days, sleepy time days is a good one. But I think a lot of it has to do with changing values and changing what people think is important, and just getting people to understand that sleep is important, because it's just seen as, if not from a Puritan perspective, that, you shouldn't have sleep, or sleep's whatever, sleep's negative. There's just a perspective that it's expendable, that if something has to go in your schedule, say like, oh, I can just lose some sleep here. Like, sleep always seems like this big chunk of useless time where you just turn off and you're like, oh, well, I want to do these other things, cut into sleep. But teaching people how important sleep is might lead people to prioritize it further, because ultimately it's a problem of the way people's choices interact with these larger systems. And we can change the systems and make it easier for people to make better choices, but people also need to be equipped with the right information to want to make the better choices.
At the same time, where it's depriving yourself of sleep, if you want to be deferential to work culture and participate in this shit uncritically, there's nothing that fits into that mold more than depriving yourself of sleep to get to work and things like that. There's also this anti-authority streak to sleep deprivation. Like, when I think of back when I slept less and thought sleep was less important, there was something really rebellious about sleeping less.
Right.
Or and there was something strong about saying, oh, I'm fine, 4 hours.
Right.
Or
right.
Like, people, the same way that people brag about how busy they are, people brag like, oh, you think you didn't get enough sleep last night? Like me, oh shit, I never sleep.
Right.
My body's falling apart. I have
I've been awake
serious
for
emotional
74
problems. You all look evil to me. I'm so tired. We need to make people understand how important sleep is without being nannies. And the perception of sleep is like your mom or your dad come into your room when you're a kid and stuff and be like, you sleeping in there? It's like, oh, reading under your covers. Oh, rebellion. I think it goes really deep to childhood, and it might actually have to do with us not understanding and respecting the biorhythms of children and what affect them. I've encountered times where there's kids that I'm babysitting, or a friend's kid or whatever is saying that they're not tired when they obviously are. Mm-hmm. Where they're just turned into a little fucking piece of shit who won't, just the bane of my existence, little fucker who needs to go fucking sleep. Mm-hmm. So what's keeping these kids up is there's a lot of things that keep people up, like artificial lighting and TV screens, computer screens, phone screens, tablet screens. The types of light that shines into your eyes trick your brain into thinking it's a different time of day than it is. If we're shooting wakefulness into our children's eyes while we demand they go to sleep, we're fucking them over.
It's true. On your computers and laptops and phones, you can get software that will change the color of the screen at nighttime to eliminate a lot of the blue spectrum and help you sleep better. I have it on all my things. Flux, yeah, F.lux. And then the one on my Android phone is different. It's called Twilight.
One more bit of dry information that I found out last night. I was working under the assumption that we didn't know why we needed sleep. That was the most recent information that I had already stored when I started researching last night. That we knew that sleep deprivation was bad, but that we didn't have any direct scientific evidence for what happens while we're sleeping that's so essential. In the years 2012 and 2013, there were 2 studies done on mice that have
shed some new light on the topic.
Yes. Okay, but a lot is still not known about sleep, but here's kind of what we do know now. So these are the names of the 2 studies. The 2013 study in the Journal of Science was called Sleep Drives Metabolite Clearance from the Adult Brain. And many of the same researchers also published a study in 2012 called A Paravascular Pathway Facilitates CSF Flow Through the Brain's Parenchyma and the Clearance of Interstitial Solutes, including amyloid beta.
So you're clearing amyloid beta out of some part of your brain or body?
Out of your brain, yeah. Interstitial solutes. That's why we sleep.
You're also in contact with the spirit realm. And you're using your dreams to... I don't want to get too deeply into dreams. I feel like that could just be an episode all on its own. But just as you were mentioning, like, this is what sleep is for, I feel like without mentioning dreams there is a mistake. Because I feel like sleeping and dreaming is like this mystical experience that everyone has regularly. And it's just there's more going on there than that, even though that stuff seems to probably definitely be going on. I don't know the science, but...
Yeah, let's stick to cold, hard, rational facts.
Well, you can stick to cold, hard, rational facts.
We all know you have a history of science denialism. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely. It's endemic in my thought. But
every time I mentioned a study today, you were like, that study's not true. It's merely science. Where were the crystals in the study? Okay, so I gave you the names of those studies, and obviously no one understands what that means unless they're already a neuroscientist. Here's the approximation of what we found out about
Right.
one of the functions of sleep time, sleepy beds, Betty buys.
The physical layer, the what's happening on the physical realm. Go.
Yeah, all the cells in your body have waste, and the rest of your body, except for your brain, have their own systems to deal with this. But because of the blood-brain barrier, which is a physical filter that keeps certain things in your blood from going into your brain or certain things from leaving your brain, the waste cells within your brain can't leave through the traditional route. So within your brain, there are neurons, glial, and cerebrospinal fluid, which fills the spaces in between. While you're awake, the cerebrospinal fluid is mostly around your brain, and your neurons kind of like push up against each other. This waste material in your brain is neurotoxic, and it's associated with Alzheimer's. It's associated with a lot of negative effects that I've been describing with sleep deprivation. When you are asleep, and this is based on research in mice, so it might not map one-to-one with people, the neurons in your brain, from what we can tell, shrink physically by 60%. They get smaller and the space between them grows. And then the space between them fills with cerebrospinal fluid. And somehow the glial, from my understanding, acts as a pump that pushes the spent cells and toxins out of your brain and into your bloodstream so it can be filtered out. Our brain also does this when we're awake, but it's much less efficient. And it seems like one of the strong purposes of sleep, if not the primary purpose, is to get our brain to use less energy for thinking, controlling our body, and all those things, to use more energy for cleaning up all the garbage out of our brain, which, if it stays in our brain, impairs our cognition, causing effects like misinterpreting neutral facial expressions as malicious.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And I'm a little sleep deprived right now. I can feel those toxins piling up. And I don't want no Alzies.
You can feel all your neurons clutching together, not letting the soup in, and around.
Yeah, let the soup in, boys. Falling asleep. Get at it, boys. Get that soup. Just push that dirt out of there with your sweet soup.
Hey, Alice. So the boys are having a sleepover tonight, and I was just wondering if you wanted to have a sleepover too. They're going to be at my place. Maybe we'll sleep over at your place, and my husband can watch them.
That sounds so fun. It's so rare that I get to hang out with just another mom and kick back. That sounds like a load of fun. That sounds like a whole boatload of fun. Consider me putting on my life jacket because I want on that boat.
Fabulous. You know, I was thinking it would be really fun if we just stayed up all night. You know, what do you think?
That sounds really edgy, and I am into it.
Everyone's always telling you, get enough sleep, make sure you get enough sleep, but I got a lot of shit to do, and I don't get enough time just for me.
I'm busy, and I don't get time for me.
If I want time for me, I'm going to have to cut into the one place where I have the autonomy to cut into my sleep.
Yeah, so that extra time where you're just lying there doing nothing. I'll be tired tomorrow at work, but... who cares?
Yeah, they don't even know why we sleep. There's really no reason. So, there's nothing, we don't even need it, really.
Trust me, from mom to mom, we got a little experience with staying up all night with these crying babies. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
And we got through it.
Three times.
3 times.
3 times, 3 children. You don't know how many children I have? Wow, we're gonna learn a lot about each other tonight.
I can't wait.
We could watch some TV
How old is your
shows.
oldest?
11.
11.
11. And then there's our boys, they're 8 and 9. And then my youngest is 5. It's a little girl, my only girl.
Huh. I think I'm mixing you up with another mom.
That's not flattering.
Well, it's just I see the boy when it comes around, and I mean, we've met, but don't flatter yourself. I mean, I'm fucking busy. Okay? Don't put that malicious face at me.
I'm making a neutral face, Alice. I just won't have that. If we're going to have this sleepover, we are going to interpret each other's facial expressions beneficently. All right?
My bad. I want to have fun. I want to be moms.
I was thinking a really fun thing. Maybe keep each other awake. We just say whoever falls asleep first gets a fart in the face. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's devilish. I'm in.
It's just too exciting. It's too funny. Too funny.
That's
too
just
funny.
too much.
We're wild.
We're wild.
Aren't we? We're just a couple of wild girls.
Know what I like to do? Just to be honest. And while we're being wild and being open, sometimes I'll watch 2 shows at once. Flip to the other one during commercial time. Skip the whole commercial thing. Second channel, which
that's too wild for me. That's too much. Yeah, no, I like that's how they pay for those shows. I kind of feel like I should just watch the ads. Like that's what's paying for the entertainment I'm enjoying so much. That's what my father always taught me. So that's kind of what I do. But
you're lucky it's hip to be square. Just kidding.
Yeah, maybe it is square to be honest. But the boys are here. I'm gonna come over. I'm gonna bring a bottle of wine, 2 bottles of wine.
Can you grab some Ripple chips on the way?
Oh,
I'm feeling bad.
Only if we get ranch dip.
Ooh, you are bad, girl. This is devilish. I'm gonna have so much fun tonight. That is devilish.
It's devilish, yeah. Things you can't say in public. I will say tonight at the sleepover.
When we're away from
You
the
and me,
kids.
away from the kids. Have you ever tried doing those things? Have you ever tried doing segmented sleep, polyphasic or biphasic, or something other than one large chunk? I guess napping is inherently something like that, but
Yeah, in high school I used to regularly sleep 5 or 6 hours, be woken up by my mom, go upstairs, eat breakfast, and then sleep as much as I could before it was time to leave for work. So time to leave for school at the time, I mean. That's really the closest thing I've done to polyphasic sleep.
I did something kind of similar. My mom, when I was growing up, had this terrible habit of wanting to she would open the door while I was sleeping at the same time every morning and just turn the light on and be like, "Good morning." And it was just, it's the worst thing in the world to hear when you just to be woken up like that. It's terrible. But I would do that, and then I would get up and go shower and then go back to bed and also sleep until it was time to leave for school or work or whatever. So yeah, I did that same thing.
It's so good when you go back to sleep. More sleepies. 5 more minutes.
And recently I've been having some experiences where if I do go to bed super early, which I do sometimes, I'll go to bed at 10 p.m. and then wake up at 4:30 or 3:30 and then be awake for 30 minutes, maybe look at the computer or something, which is maybe bad, but it seems fine. Or I'll do some stretches or something and then go back to sleep for another 3-hour chunk or something like that. So I really like that one. The idea of the biphasic sleep that was apparently very common in history, or some people are arguing that based on some evidence of literature and other historical sources. But I like that idea, a big chunk and then a hour waking time and then another big chunk. That's the only one of these various sleeping patterns I've seen that appeals to me. There was a bunch I saw that were trying to, the goal of them was to reduce the amount of time you sleep. So there was doing 4 2-hour sleeping sessions or things like that seem just like a nightmare to me. And
Yeah.
I read this one article, I think on Vice, where someone described it as a nightmare. And I was like, yeah, I like this article. It's true. That would be a nightmare. He
Yeah,
was
was
trying
that where they said that it was like taking acid?
to. Maybe. Yeah. Like I didn't read it today. I read it a few months ago.
Buckminster Fuller, who I love and admire, but is undeniably a kooky old man, endorsed a form of polyphasic sleep where you sleep for 20 minutes every 6 hours.
Yeah, no, fuck that
Apparently he did this for 2 years. Endorsed it, but decided to stop doing it for some reason or another.
I read on some site I just looked at that his wife didn't like him doing it. And also, this part made less sense. It said that his business associates wouldn't keep the same schedule. I don't know why that would necessarily be relevant. And like, you're just basically awake all the time under this 20-minute nap schedule. So it seems like there'd be enough overlap. But those were the two reasons I saw given. The wife one makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like I would just be like, no, that's weird. You sleep like a normal person, husband. So that's what I would say to him.
I want to stay on polyphasic and biphasic sleep, but when I was working night shift, my girlfriend at the time, we'd frequently sleep in the same bed, and so to have me absent from sleeping with her from working my night shift thing was something that she was upset about and expressed to me, and then me trying to be this hero, sleeping in the same bed as her, would sometimes go to bed at more regular times on the weekends, even though I'm working night shift 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. So like I was putting this weird pressure on myself to try to like, and so sometimes I would get off work on Friday, stay up, have a little nap, wake up, stay up all the way to go to bed at the same time as her, which was so fucking bad for me. And it was bad for her too, because I'm interpreting her neutral expressions as malicious.
Yeah,
like,
you have increased anxiety and depression and...
Yeah, like the tension between like lovers or romantic partners that come with alternative sleep schedules, it's enormous.
Yeah.
There is a need in society to have people who live these schedules, but we treat them like shit.
It's weird. Like, I've had that experience too. I relate to your girlfriend of being like annoyed when my partner didn't go to bed at the same time as me, and like just constantly thinking this is really irrational, but that not helping the situation of me, like, because then I would just be like thinking about how irrational I am for wanting this person to be in the bed with me and I should just go to sleep, but I can't sleep. And I end up just not being able to sleep until they come to bed. So it puts pressure on them to go to bed when they're not tired. And like I lose sleep because I'm awake. But I managed to like somehow work myself out of it. I guess my conviction that it was irrational eventually came to a point where it worked. And also I just didn't get my way. So I guess I had to learn to fall asleep. That's a weird thing that's true. Because I was like even finding these articles online at the time. They're like, see, couples who go to bed at the same time are happier or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But like this should be.
So prescriptive, Aaron. So sleep negative.
I was protecting my own sleep again. I was like, this isn't being easy for me right now. I feel like I'm missing out on something that's happening out here and I should stay out with you, but I need to go to sleep. And
I also have these really strong memories of hanging out with my close friend who lived with his girlfriend at the time. They lived together at the time and they were dating at the time, where I'm over and she wants to go to bed early and they have like this weird type of like passive aggressive conflict over it where it's decided that, and I'm like this third party being like, oh yeah, I mean, I could leave. I mean, you could go to bed. And yeah. He's like, no, I want to like keep on drinking wine and playing video games with you. Like there's no reason for me to go to bed. I'm not tired. Like we don't need to sleep together every night at the same time.
Right.
And being like, okay, yeah. And like, so being party to their personal passive aggressive conflicts and then being up for a couple hours, you know, we're drinking, laughing, having fun, playing video games, bro.
Oh, you know, she's just stewing in the other room, like unable to sleep. Every laugh is like a fucking like punch in the face, just like this fucking asshole.
Yeah. And then I remember I also have this really profound memory of, and I'm still friends with both of them, they're not dating, but of her coming out with like scrunched up sleep face, like crossed arms, being like, come to bed, like, and just like being mad and just being like, it's time to come to bed. And like he's obviously clicking into like the mentality
rebellious.
Of the yeah, exactly. Like the kid reading the comic books under his covers type thing of being like, are you fucking serious? Like this is the game we're playing, like this is who you're gonna be in my life,
right?
Is the person making me go to bed, like
yeah. Oh man. Yeah, it's just I feel like my normal reaction to something like this would totally to be on his side, but because I've had the experience of her, I'm just like, no, you don't understand. It sucks.
Yeah, I'm on both of their sides.
Yeah.
I'm on both of their sides.
Yeah.
He was also working night shift, I think.
Yeah, so it's hard. Like, it's hard to just come to bed when you're not tired. And like laying in bed when you're not tired can make you not be able to fall asleep later. Like,
Yeah, because you're not using the energy up. Or...
Yeah, you just restlessly try to sleep for hours, whereas if you had just stayed up a little until you actually got tired, and probably fall asleep easier.
Yeah.
Or just took some kava root and extract.
Oh, I hate like feeling like I have to be in bed for someone else. Like, don't blame the person involved for, like, I need to go to sleep. It's easier for me to go to sleep if you give me some cuds. Can you please give me some cuddles? And after I fall asleep, I mean, this is important to me. If the person's saying, and after I fall asleep, you're allowed to get up and go do other things. And some people don't think that's true.
Right.
One is valid and the other is a little bit oppressive. And I don't want to be imposing, but I think we have to address there's a fundamental incompatibility here, and maybe that's a good compromise. But in that time where I'm cuddling and I'm not sure if they're asleep yet, and I'm like, I wish I could go to sleep. Like, I wish it would just be as easy as just going to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, there's just profound discomfort and like... just
waiting there sounds terrible. What we ended up doing was just some cuddling, and then just like, okay, I'm done cuddling, get up and leave, and then I fell asleep on my own. And that was enough to get like some of those hormones, and then just be like, okay, that was nice. Maybe your friend should have been like, here, Shawn, why don't you play alone for 20 minutes? We're gonna go cuddle, and then I'll come back out, we'll drink some more wine, play games.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have been a nice compromise.
I think they did that sometimes. This was an ongoing conflict. It happened more than once. I think they did that sometimes. Maybe sometimes they were also whispering passive-aggressive comments at each other. I don't know. They ended up breaking up. And I saw the cracks. I was party to the cracks. I was hanging out in the cracks of their fracturing relationship, drinking wine, laughing, and playing video games. And also, to be honest, long periods of kind of awkwardly sitting there.
Right.
And I wasn't trying to agitate. I wasn't like, hey, fucking, he's got a right, man. He's got a right to play video games. Just being like, I mean, if this is what's going, like, I'm going to go with the way this wind is blowing. I'm not.
Yeah, it's like, I can leave. I have a house, a place to go. It's all right. Things will be all right.
I'm really good at not getting bored. I'm like, people who say the words "I'm bored" to me are strange.
Yeah.
I find it strange that people could be bored. The only time I'm really bored is when I'm so tired that I don't have the energy to do the things I want to do.
Yeah. I was just going to say that. I was going to say, I don't get bored either, but sometimes I just like lack all motivation to do anything. And then it's kind of like being bored because you're not doing, like, you're bored because you're not doing anything, but it's not because there's nothing to do. It's because you don't want to do anything. But yeah, polyphasic sleep, biphasic sleep.
To make these definitions clear, monophasic sleep is sleeping all at once. Biphasic sleep is sleeping in 2 segments, and polyphasic sleep is sleeping in more than 2 segments.
So one thing I came across in reading about this was the term of an anchor sleep, meaning like for polyphasic sleep, for sleeps of more than 2 segments, there would tend to be a pattern of there being at least one sleeping period of a couple hours long. That was the anchor sleep, and then a series of shorter naps. There was a trend in a few different kinds of schedules, like people work out different schedules. So something like a 2.5 hour sleep and then a 1 hour sleep and then 2 20-minute naps spaced throughout the day, or like a 3.5 hour sleep and a 1 hour sleep. The anchor sleep would have been the longer one, the 3.5 hour sleep.
When I was at Lush, I'd do a 5.5 hour sleep, a 15-minute sleep, a half-hour sleep, then a 15-minute sleep. I was miserable.
All of these things sound miserable to me, except for biphasic, just like basically getting an extra long sleep with a like break in the middle. That's really attractive to me. If I ever don't have to work and have a lot of time on my hands, I would probably start doing that.
According to the name of the guy was A. Roger Elkirk, who made this argument. He claims that based on historical records, for a long time up until recently, human beings typically slept in 2 phases. They would sleep when the sun went down. After about 4 hours, they'd wake up for a few hours, go back to sleep for another 4 hours, and then wake up for the day. monophasic sleep is an anomaly in the animal kingdom. Most animals sleep in at least 2 segments, sometimes more.
Well, one of the things I remember him pointing out as evidence, as like textual evidence, was references, I guess, were common to something called second sleep. So just the idea that there would be, you know, the first phase of the sleep and then an waking period and then a second sleep. I think I'm getting that right, second sleep. It's been a while since I read it. And I think, yeah, I just like that terminology. I keep saying this over and over. I really like the idea of this. I want this. And I want to have a second sleep. I want to bring that back into the cultural lingo. I wonder if that would be one of the answers to, like, not that everyone should do this, but just extending the expected sleep period so people can, you know, stay up into it later or sleep at the beginning or I don't know. I guess it's just making more space for sleep in our lives and making that normal and making that a sort of socially enforced thing where people are like, oh, you're not getting enough sleep. Like, I get enough sleep, and you see everyone else doing it and then you do it too. That's what we got to get going.
Yeah, and it seems Elkirk found references to first sleep and second sleep in English, the Romance languages, and the language of the Tiv people of Nigeria. The space in between was sometimes called the watch period, or in French it was called dorveiller, which is a portmanteau of the French words dormir and veiller, which is to sleep and be awake. So during periods of nighttime wakefulness, the brain has high levels of the pituitary hormone prolactin, which is one of the brain chemicals that makes the post-orgasmic peace feeling, like the at-rest type of post-coital feeling.
It's one of the major reasons you lose your erection right after sex is prolactin, too.
So the popular assumption is that, you know, the day is split up into 3 8-hour segments, one of which is for sleeping. People with artificial light sources have a 16-hour period of lights. So our brain responds to lights as if we're outside and as if the sun is in the sky. Our sleep mechanisms are tied to our perception of what time of day it is. So the photo period, that is the place where we see light in our day-to-day, is 16 hours. And then we have 8 hours of being deprived of light. That's the default. People like Aaron, who are geniuses, already have it figured out to turn off the lights a little before that.
No, I just I heard about it and I tried it and started doing it, and the effects of turning the light on after having them off for half an hour before bed, like, it just became so obvious that I was like, no. I feel like once you get the subjective experience of how beneficial it actually is, it was at least really noticeable to me. Then I became good at doing it, just not out of you have to do this, just because I was like, no, I like this.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm tired, so my reactions are off. Like I'm nodding at you, but with a plain face. Like, yes, I agree.
You're fine.
Thanks, man. If you had
I'm not interpreting your facial expressions with malice because I got enough sleep. So
jealous. Well, you don't have to brag. That's just sleep deprivation anxiety.
Yeah, you're just interpreting my words with malice.
So what Thomas A. Ware did was he put people in a situation where they were given 10 hours of light only as an experiment. And outside that 10 hours of light, they were unable to access light. And what he found was that at first people would sleep for longer than usual, like 11 hours, 12 hours during that period. And his interpretation was that they were making up for sleep debt during that period. And then after a little while longer, they began sleeping for a 4-hour period, waking up for a few hours, and then sleeping for another 4-hour period, which matches the hypothesis of the historian that this is somehow natural, which is really, interesting, fascinating. Because if you think of the fact that there's some experimental evidence to suggest that this historical hypothesis is accurate, it has relevance to our lives, because sleep deprivation is really bad for us. And if our hardware is set up to sleep in a certain way, but our culture is making us sleep in another way, it's possible that everyone in society, even people with extremely healthy sleep habits by our standards, are suffering mildly from the effects of sleep deprivation. And it's possible that all of these things that are associated with sleep deprivation, while if you're getting healthy amounts of sleep every night, healthy by our standards again, that you're still opening yourself up to Alzheimer's, you're still opening yourself up to projecting maliciousness more than you otherwise would, you're opening yourself up to this horrible laundry list of enormous, horrible symptoms undermining world peace.
Yeah, I think so. Because even I was saying like, oh, I have good sleep habits, try to go to bed early and stuff, but I still like feel my major reason for sleep deprivation is waking up too early and not being able to fall asleep again. Like it's like 5:45 wake up, and then I'm just like, shit, well, what if I don't fall asleep? And as soon as I have that thought, then like it's over. I just gotta like get up and pee and get back to bed before I think anything, and then I'm good. Then like I'll have a bad sleep and I'll have bad days, and so it's still it's this anxiety of having a compressed period of time in which it's okay to sleep, because so much of my day is taken up with 8-hour workday, which reminds me that the 6-hour workday, or my preference, the 3-hour workday, would be an amazing boon to people's sleep schedule. Either the 3-hour workday or reversing the weekend, so that it's the regular work week is 2 days on, 5 days off instead of the opposite. Those are my two main pragmatic work reform, rather than just abolishing work. Reversing the weekend or 3-hour work days, I think, are two reasonable middle of the road choices that would have a huge effect on sleep.
There was recently a story about I think it was an old folks home in Sweden that they changed their work day for the people who work there from 8 hours to 6 hours, and basically reported that everyone was happier to be at work, doing a better job at work. There was no loss of productivity from it.
There was a major auto repair chain that implemented this also in Sweden that likewise had very positive results. They switched from one 8-hour shift to two 6-hour shifts with some overlap in the middle and staying open a little longer. And they just found, it worked out really well for everyone. And the deal with these things, in case people don't understand this aspect, the idea of shifting to a 6-hour workday is that you would not be paid less. You would be paid the same for doing less work, because people are more happier and productive during this period of time, because they're happy to not be there for 8 hours, that they actually end up doing as much or more, or at least close to the same amount of work that they did in 8 hours. So that's the reason that bosses actually get behind it or report positively on it, is because they notice that they get more out of it also.
Okay, I want to make one last point. Our current sleep culture is part of a system that keeps poor people poor. So for the Center for Disease Control in the United States recommends good sleep hygiene, which is how to sleep more effectively. And I'm going to list what those things are. So it's useful. It's useful for your life. Go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. I don't do that. Do you do that? You do that?
Ish. Yeah, close.
Avoid large meals before bed. Avoid caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine before bed.
No. Well, yes, on caffeine and nicotine, usually alcohol, but sometimes I'll drink before bed. No on food.
So far, I've got 0 out of 6 on the sleep hygiene thing. Sleep in a comfortable, quiet place. Use eye shades, plugs, or white noise machines if you need to.
Yes.
When I was couch surfing before, I was not sleeping in a comfortable, quiet place. Now I am, thankfully.
My room has blackout shades, and I put a towel under the door. Like it's pitch black in there.
Well, they recommend blackout shades specifically, the CDC.
Yeah, I know. It's really like, it's awesome. It's so good to wake up and like open your eyes and it just be like, you can barely tell the difference between your eyes being open or shut. It's really nice.
They also recommend exposing yourself to bright light in the morning when you wake up. So as soon as you want to wake up, open those blackout shades. Make a relaxing bedtime ritual, like read a book, pray, or go for a walk.
No, usually watch TV before bed. It's usually the last thing I'm doing.
Avoid TVs, computers, smartphones for 1 hour before bed.
Nah, definitely not. The last thing I'm doing is usually on my smartphone while laying in bed.
Yeah, me too.
But I do have Twilight running on there, so.
Use your bed only for sleep and sex, and build a strong sleep association there.
Yeah, it's sleep, sex, and the occasional like laying just for like a rest that isn't generally a nap, and masturbation. I guess that's kind of sex with yourself.
Yeah, I'm really bad with that. I'm a hang out all day in bed sometimes. They also recommend exercising during the day to make you tired at night. If you expend a lot of energy during the day, by the end of the day, you're more likely to be tired. If you've been sitting in a chair all day, like many of us do at our jobs, at the end of the day, you're going to be less tired and more restless.
I generally do a lot of walking. My job requires a lot of walking, and even on days that I'm not, I end up running errands usually. So I do some walking all the time. A little bit of light exercise, like yoga exercise sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Middle on that. I don't like tire myself out, but I'm not like sedentary.
My sleep hygiene is fucking terrible.
I'm pretty good. I give myself 7.5 to 8 out of 10, I think.
I give myself a generous 3 out of 10.
Wow. Yeah.
So why is this relevant to poor people staying poor? Well, poor people are disadvantaged when it comes to sleep hygiene. Rich people can go out and buy blackout curtains. Poor people can't. Rich people can buy comfortable beds, buy new sheets. Mm-hmm. Poor people are disproportionately substance users, smokers, arguably for coping with the stress of being poor. They smoke cigarettes more often, they drink more often. Going to bed and waking up at the same time each day is easier for rich people than poor people because poor people are more likely to work variable schedule jobs, like where you're starting at 11 a.m. one day, starting at 4 p.m. the next day, things like that. When I worked at a grocery store, that was expected of me. I was earning minimum wage. They're also more likely to work night shifts, graveyard shifts, afternoon shifts, unusual hours. These are all disadvantages for maintaining the same sleep and wake time. Another thing is if you live in a poor neighborhood, it's more likely that your windows aren't going to be well insulated and that sound from outside is going to travel in. That's particularly a problem if you live in a neighborhood like I do, the downtown east side in Vancouver, where there are fucking sirens all night, every fucking night.
Oh, shit.
Like,
that sucks.
I'm used to it now. Like, I sleep through them. I dream about ambulances and shit because the sirens are so fucking piercing, even if all my windows are closed. I wake up for sirens because there's a fire station down the street, there's a police station around the corner, and there's also frequently fireworks going off outside of my place. Low-income neighborhoods are loud. There's screaming in them. There's violence in them. There's gunshots in them. It's not good for sleep hygiene.
Yeah, I have fireworks too and some screaming around here. Also loud neighbors. It's with the white noise machine, or my fan is not a white noise machine, but it is a white noise machine because that's what I use it for.
So our clock culture, our sleep culture, our work culture, and all the way these things intersect is part of a system that keeps poor people poor. I think this is really important stuff. And I'm tired, but luckily I have notes.
I slept instead of making notes, and now I'm tired and I have nothing to say because I don't have any notes.
This episode was like a test, and I stayed up all night studying for it, and you and you just winged it.
Yeah,
but it's a group project, so it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's hilarious. So true.
So this has been the Seriously Wrong podcast. I'm your sleepy boy wearing his nightcap. Did you know this entire episode, me and Aaron have been lying in bed together with nightcaps on and with our slippers sticking out the end of the bed, like next to each other?
Yeah, it's something you didn't know about how we record this episode. Thank you for listening to the episode, everyone. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate you individually, each of you.
Don't take this as a criticism, but you don't get enough sleep, and we're worried about you.
Yeah.
We say it because we love you. I'm not trying to shame you.
Yeah, we're not trying to be your mom. Like, I don't want to...
We don't want to breastfeed you.
Yeah, but we do just care about you.
I hope that if you weren't already aware, you were aware of the severity of this.
And another thing that I really hope you're aware of is that whether you get a little sleep or a lot of sleep or sometimes get enough sleep, you can call our hotline at
1-866-770-8754. We really appreciate it. It's always fun to get messages. Also, we've got a contact form on our website, which is seriously.wrong.com, SRSLYWRONG.com, where you can send us written messages if you don't want to use your voice, which is perfectly acceptable. Just like sleeping for 11 hours is acceptable if it's what you feel you need.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I feel we need is for you. You guys to review us on iTunes and Stitcher. Have we ever got a review on Stitcher? I don't know if I've ever looked.
We did get some reviews on Stitcher. Maybe a good way to end the episode because it'll tell you what to think of the show because they're both positive. No, this is a model for what type of reviews we love to see.
Oh, this is good. I haven't heard these. I don't think I say it regularly. I don't think I've ever looked to see what we got.
Okay, here's live reaction from you.
Yeah.
I wish there was video like of how tired my eyes are half open. I'm like, just you do. Okay. Anonymous said, 5-star review a year ago. Seriously wrong, yet oh so right. Two charming chaps from the deep wilds of the Canadian suburbs have come together to create one truly great podcast. It's seriously wrong. Listen like a good little fly on the wall to learn the right way to be wrong. 5 people found that review helpful.
Oh, nice. I like this.
Did I say 5? I meant 3.
You did say 5. It's a 5-star review.
Yeah, that's what confused me, is seeing those stars. And the other review we got is a 5-star review from Boobman.
Thanks, Boobman.
7 months ago. Boobman says, informative and funny. Smart and casual. Nice variety with sound clips and skits. One person found that helpful.
Ooh, nice.
I need to go to sleep. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. And thank you,
Thanks.
Aaron, for co-hosting.
Let's all go to sleep.
Let's all go to sleep now.
Whatever time of day it is, to bed with you.
Do you want to sing our lullaby?
Oh, yeah. I feel like I'm going to fuck it up.
Lullaby and good night. And you won't get Alzheimer's. Sleep will keep you safe and full brain function in old age. Close your eyes now and rest. Flush your neurotoxins. If you don't, you will have serious emotional problems. Lullaby and good night. No one wants to kill you. Read my face, it is neutral. I am not a malicious person. Lullaby and sleep tight. For the 5 hours till work starts. Heart disease, muscle loss, and a decreased sex drive. Your boss means well, but he's part of a system that in aggregate deprives you of sleep and will cause heart failure. Go to sleep, little one. Think of Exxon Valdez. Go to sleep, little one. And think of the thousands of people killed in preventable driving accidents caused by a culture of sleep deprivation.
Oh, that was nice.
That was nice. We're singers now. And since you're all asleep, I can tell you what I really think about you.
Which is that you're great.
Which is you're great.